I heard it and I was like, yo, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at a point in my life now where it comes to musical observation where I can tell if a song is good or not. So I was like, I'm shocked that this is good. But the thing that really got to me was people were sending it to me unsolicited.
Yeah.
Unsolicited. Like, yo, have you heard this song? And they'll send it to me. But they won't, they don't, nobody wants to say their opinion first.
They want to send it.
They want to send it and hear what you're going to say.
There was like 48 hours of that. And like, probably like 3 or 4 group chats where everyone was like, yo, I like it. Like, with a question mark. It was like...
Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's Soundbites, the part of the Album World podcast where we're talking about the music, the culture, the internet, and how those 3 things intertwine. All those things intertwine. Create the musical culture that we have today. My name is DeMar Grant, aka King Grant, aka The Bunny. And I'm here with my esteemed co-host, co-creator, LiAngelo Smiley, aka LiAngelosmiley.com, aka The Godfather, aka Mr. Smiley. LiAngelo, we are back. First Soundbites of 2025. And we have one of the songs of the year already. Off rip.
Wow.
G3 Jello, LiAngelo Ball has dropped the song of the year. Tweaker. This song is already racked up 100,000 units of sales.
Yep.
And is featured in every NFL locker room, NBA locker room, TikTok, Twitter, tweet, everywhere. It's everywhere. And I am genuinely stunned by somebody who is an ex-NBA player, older brother to LaMelo. I think he's the middle child. He's younger than Lonzo. I am stunned, and I think we actually might be seeing a moment right now. Jello, is he the next big thing? Is he up next?
I think that remains to be seen. But the one thing I will say is I don't think I can remember an actual song going viral this quickly.
Me neither.
That is the thing to me is like it going viral is already like a plot twist in itself because I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know he even made music. So the fact that I didn't know he even made music and now this is the biggest thing smoking, didn't see it come in, but it went viral literally instantly. Like the song was out for 45 seconds, it felt like, and it was everywhere. So I think he has something with that. The next song coming also sounds good. So I think if he can actually follow it up, like it seems like he will, then we have something. But I don't know if he'll be the next big thing because it still is very niche. Like it is very much in like the male sports community.
Yes, Tweaker is very unique like that.
Yeah, because I've asked some of my friends who are women about the song of like, have they heard it? Most of them haven't heard it. I've played the song for them. Most of them don't like it. So it is very much like in our subculture of men watching sports on the internet. I don't know if that's enough to go number 1, but it was the number 1 trending song on YouTube Music as of Wednesday, January 7th. 4.9 million views on YouTube, which is that's small feat.
Yeah, that's nuts.
1.3 million plays on the first day on Spotify. So it's not nothing. Yeah. It's not nothing.
It's a real song.
2 things I'm looking forward to. The video, I gotta see what the video
is. Is there gonna be a video?
Has to be now. Like, come on. It has to be. This may be the biggest song since Not Like Us. Like, that's obviously not true, but that's what it feels like. What it feels like. So I gotta see the video, and I gotta see, is he gonna go what the memes are doing of like the baggy shirts, the toilet paper headband, all that. But also, if there's gonna be a remix, who is on it? Because I think this is a big moment here where you can't fumble. You got to do this right.
Right. Okay. Let's just step back real quick. Tweaker. How do we describe this song? This is like a dirty. Well, I thought it was like a dirty South to early 2000s type of hip hop, but then I saw people dress up like the Diplomats and getting down to this song. So I think it's just like this is like a 2000s hip hop. Just like
it sounds like the St. Lunatics.
Yes.
Sung by Nate Dogg.
Yeah.
Like if Nate Dogg sang a St. Lunatics song, that's what it sounds like.
Which is a unique combo, especially in 2025. People do not sound like that.
No.
Like 0%. People are not sounding like Nelly right now at all either. So that's what makes it stick out, because it doesn't sound like anything else right now. And I think that the hook You know, it's like I'm gonna swerve in the corner. Whoa, that's like
Crack.
crack. You know what I mean? Like every tweet about it, every caption, like every place you go on the internet right now, or I guess the mail space of the internet,
Mhm.
they're referencing that hook. That hook is everything right now. So, Tweaker, interesting track. Something that nobody could have predicted it being as popular as literally nobody could ever predict.
What is the last song by an athlete that was this big? I'm just saying athlete. I'm not even going basketball. Last song by an athlete that was this big. Shaq in 98, like maybe Al Iverson when he dropped that freestyle, or Kobe, which is also 90s. But it's like, this is probably I guess maybe for like 8 hours when that freestyle with LeBron and KD dropped.
Oh yeah,
that had a
I forgot
moment
about that
on the internet, but that was like short lived.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then when KD had that song with Sally, that had a little moment. Again, 8 hours. This is like bigger than all of those.
Yeah, we're talking about a full week now.
Yeah, and still going.
Yeah, and still going. And there's supposed to be another song. I've seen Lonzo in the Bulls locker room playing this. Oh, also, I would just want to mention that before that, the fact that you can watch the locker room videos of these NBA and NFL players, and they're like put on that jello,
crazy,
is insane, because that really means like people are really playing it. You know, people really want to hear it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If they're really talking about, if you're talking about in the locker room, to say a song in the locker room, it's got to be good. You know, you're not playing the trash in the locker room.
And I will say, of course, you heard it playing in the Cavs locker room, in the Hornets locker room, of course. Two teams his brother plays for.
Detroit
the Bulls.
Lions are playing it, bro.
The Lions after their big win.
Yeah.
I'm going to a 2000s party next week.
This is planned.
So
1,000%.
I hope I get there at least by the time this plays. I don't want to miss my shot, because I'm also going to be in my Vince Carter jersey with my fitted backwards, and I'm going to be ready when that song plays. So I'm actually excited for this, because when I saw this getting viral and going around, the Ball brothers have been kind of a joke in the NBA for a bit. Like, yes, they're very popular. Like, LaMelo was leading guards in the East in All-Star votes in the first returns, but they're kind of like popular, but a joke in the way. Like, I'm telling it to people who are unaware. I'm like, they're kind of like if there was like a Real Housewives of the NBA. Like insanely popular. People love them, but they're all people who are like, that's a joke, that's not real, like that kind of thing. So, Jello is probably the most, like, I guess, made fun of all of them. Yeah,
because he doesn't actually play in the league.
And for him to have the hit is kind of like mind-blowing. So when it was happening, I was like, okay, everyone's making fun of him. This is not like really gonna be a thing. And then when I heard the song, not that I liked it right away, I surprised myself.
Yeah, I was also just surprised because I heard it. I heard it and I was like, yo, this is good. And I'm at a point in my life now where it comes to musical observation where I can tell if a song is good or not. So I was like, I'm shocked that this is good. But the thing that really got to me was people were sending it to me unsolicited.
Yeah.
Unsolicited. Like, yo, have you heard this song? And they'll send it to me. But they won't. They don't. Nobody wants to say their opinion first.
They want to send it.
They want to send it and hear what you're gonna say.
There was like 48 hours of that, and like probably like 3 or 4 group chats. Where everyone was like, "Yo, I like it," like with a question mark. It was like, "Do I like this song?"
People are just sending it. They just send the audio file.
Yep.
No, nothing else. Right. And I'm like almost a person for a lot of people where I'm like, it's good. And they're like, I like this part. I'm like,
gotta confirm for them.
I gotta confirm for them. I'm like the sounding board for them where I have to confirm. So yeah, that's like, incredible to me. But there is going to be a second song. Lonzo has said there's going to be a second song.
I did see that.
Yeah, Lonzo said there's going to be a second song.
And he played some of it in the locker room.
And he's played some of it in the locker room. It's like a 15 second snippet. And that sounds pretty good too.
I think the second song is going to tell me what I need to know, because when we were messaging about it, what did I say? Let's see if it charts.
Yeah.
Let's see if it charts, because I've seen this many times over the years where a song could be popular online, again, whether it's Vine, Facebook, MySpace, and then when it comes time to actually chart, it charts at 97. A big song like this was All Gold Everything, where it didn't have much chart success, but that was platinum on the internet when that was the time.
Big time culture song.
So this is one of those where I'm like, will this be an All Gold Everything, or will it be a Bad and Bougie?
Ooh.
And so that's kind of where I'm waiting to see is, which side will it be on? And what this made me think about is how popular TikTok is, because TikTok may not be here for much longer.
Yeah.
And it's like, does this song blow up without TikTok? Of course, Twitter, X is still, a force in this. But I think TikTok has played a big role in this song blowing up. And we mentioned the possible TikTok ban a few months ago. And I can't lie, I forgot about it. I'm not on TikTok worrying about my last days on the app.
Yeah.
I totally forgot that this could happen. But the law set January 19th for the deadline for the sale of TikTok. And that's the US government pushing the Chinese owners of TikTok to sell it to an American owner, which is very American if you ask me.
I know you have to sell it to somebody that's American so that it can actually be used in our country.
And the 19th is the due date. On Friday, they're going to meet to kind of discuss it a little bit more. Excuse me. Now, the government is citing national security concerns for this. But this is kind of going against the First Amendment rights of free speech. And the Supreme Court has already spoken on that in a different case in the last few months. So my guess is that they're probably going to lean towards not having this sale happen, and have it for free speech, because I think there's a lot of implications about something like this happening on the future of free speech. Of course, people are very concerned because TikTok is really influencing elections at this point, the way people think about the country, and just a lot of things past that. But I do think there are kind of implications that go past just TikTok and how it influences America. 170 million users in America on TikTok. That's basically half the country on this app. And TikTok's legal team has basically been going against it, saying that ask us to sell violates the First Amendment, which protects free speech. So my guess is that the sale's not going to happen. But again, we're coming up to the dates where we're going to know for sure.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to the sale, one thing to note, and I feel like nobody's really talking about it, is Trump's inaugurate, like when Trump comes into power, is literally the day after that deadline.
Yep. Yeah.
So you can be like, oh, he doesn't really he can't really have any sort of effect with the sale. But then, even though we're talking about politics and deadlines, if you show up one day after the deadline, something can still get done.
and Trump does appoint Supreme Court judges.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it, as well as it's like, in my mind, I'm like, I feel like TikTok helps someone like Trump in a sense, that kind of disseminates his message. But as well, it's like TikTok's something that America cannot control.
Yes,
it is just outside their control. So, and
he's also a protectionist. Low-key is he's a weird, like, to talk about him in like a actual political way. He's a very odd person.
It's like he's in every direction at once.
Yeah, because he is a protectionist in a lot of ways, where he is America first.
Yep.
In a lot of ways. So it's interesting. Like, your head always kind of does like one of these where you're like, I can't really tell what he's going to do.
Yeah, and as well, I think too, it's like, when you think about what this really comes down to, and take away like how you use the internet or how you use social media, this is the U.S. government trying to regulate foreign ownership of a private company.
Right.
It's like, that in itself is a crazy ask. Maybe it's like, because it's TikTok, it makes sense, and the implications it may have. But it's like, that ask in general is kind of crazy.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting because if it does get banned in America, I don't know what the percentage is of English speaking music that exists that comes from America, but that's all going to get locked out of that social media platform. People who are music creators from there. Somebody like, this LiAngelo Ball thing that we're talking about wouldn't be happening
at all.
Yeah. $1 Million Baby wouldn't be happening. Like, Doja Cat's explosion never happens unless TikTok exists, right? So there's a lot of things that
and I think
emanate from that for the music industry. It could be bad.
It goes past America too, because I think of artists outside of America, like Nemesis or even Luna Lee, who it's like, just being big on TikTok in Canada is not enough.
True.
So true. It's like, TikTok is one of those apps, almost like SoundCloud, where you can reach anybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a big part of it as well, where it's like, I think about all the London, pages that I follow that are from England. And it's like they are popular because yes, they're popular in London, but they're popular in America as well.
Yeah, there's even like what is it? BB No Dollar Sign, whatever his actual name is. Yeah, he's Canadian. He's from Vancouver, bro.
So it's like I think of acts like that where they're very popular online, and it's like if they can't, share their stuff to Americans as easy, then I think that's a big part. So listen, I don't think it's gonna happen. I got my fingers crossed. Knock on all the wood.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want us to keep an eye on this because this is happening, very, very soon.
Yeah, that's a week from now, 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, 10 days from now. Yeah.
So it's a big deal. It could be like for the music industry, it could be disastrous in a lot of different ways. Like if you're an up and coming artist, this was like a way to really break, really break open and get your music seen by a lot of people. So if TikTok doesn't exist, that just narrows the scope and narrows the amount of avenues that you can actually break through. There was that time where UMG didn't allow their artists, and that was great for independent artists, for your Brent Fayez's of the world and others, where you're independent, so you can kind of just exist and you're existing in this like gray area. But that gray area no longer exists. It will just be black it will just be nothingness.
Yeah, and I think too the two apps that people would be going to, of course, would be Twitter, X, and Instagram.
Yeah,
those are not the same as TikTok.
Yeah, not the same music culture.
And I think it's funny because TikTok was an avenue for artists to act a whole different way. Like I think of someone like Amine, who I was a fan of just from his music, but when I followed him on TikTok, I was like, oh, like people are probably fans of you over here that aren't really fans of your music.
Yeah,
you
that's
act
true.
a whole different way. And it's like, it's almost like a weird behavior to bring to Instagram. Also, Instagram has reels and you can still do those things. Mm-hmm. But the kind of culture of Instagram is just not that free, open, do whatever you want culture that TikTok is. So that's what I'm trying to say is like, I don't think it will happen, of course. But if it does, where will people migrate? Will it be like, okay, artists are just on Twitter now, all times of the day, all times of the night? Are artists going to be on Instagram? Because here's the thing. Instagram does this thing where they kind of block songs more quickly than TikTok does.
Yeah.
And you mentioned $1 Million Baby. That song was in a bunch of videos like well before the song was released. And that's something that doesn't really happen on Instagram. Like I'm sure you can make it the sound, but it's not the same where I'm taking a sound on TikTok and using it before the song's even out in the same way. And then the old Twitter days when Twitter was like the way to release music. Like I think about the Club Paradise era Drake where he's just posting the link to Club Paradise from his Twitter page, And it's like that seems like a million years ago now. But I would be happy if that came back, to have artists have more control of their own music and like use Twitter in that way. So if that comes back, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, that would be cool if Twitter wasn't literally leaking users per month and becoming one of the, like, basically 4chan mobile?
4chan mobile is crazy.
So there's that issue. So that also hurts your avenues. I just think it's just like a overall bad for music. I can't really think of a plus. Maybe the songs will get longer. And maybe songs will have a bridge now every once in a while.
I would love that too. I would love that too.
But so I think it's a double-edged sword, and one edge of it is much sharper than the other. So that's how I feel about that. Billboard.
Yes.
Billboard dropped a top 100. I feel like we don't really comment on top 10s, top 100s of other people very frequently.
No, we do not.
If we do, it is usually like this, where we're talking about it very briefly.
Yes.
Billboard dropped a top 100 biggest pop stars, not greatest, biggest, which is
top artists of the 21st century. They called it.
Yeah, which is a distinction between biggest and greatest, and just like top artists. Those are different things. Do you have any sort of thoughts on this top 100 list? Top 10, top 25, 50, whichever.
I think two things stood out to me is this is also a list done by Billboard, so your actual chart success is a big part of this list.
Yep.
So I think that's a big part of it, because the one thing I saw everyone in the comments say, and it's funny because it's one of your guys, The Weeknd, except that he's ahead of Beyonce, and I kind of understand that, because I feel like there's a part of like celebrity more than like big artists in terms of sales, especially in this top 10. And there's a few people in this top 10 who I think of like their celebrity is larger than life, as well as they sell a lot of records.
Yeah, this is top 100 for the 21st century. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'll go through the top 10 before I mention what I'm talking about. 10, Usher. 9, Bruno Mars. 8, Justin Bieber. 7, Beyonce. 6, The Weeknd. 5, Eminem. 4, Post Malone. 3, Rihanna. 2, Drake. And number 1, Taylor Swift. The person to me, I think, is the biggest like star of these is Beyonce.
Yeah.
Like it feels like Beyonce goes anywhere, the world stops.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yes, she doesn't have the sales of the other artists ahead of her, maybe. But in terms of like the bigger star, it's like if Beyonce and The Weeknd both walk into a room, everyone's running to Beyonce.
Yeah.
You know, so that's something that I feel like is almost different in this era, which I think is interesting. And then I think what's really interesting about this era is rap has been the biggest genre for the past, 25 years or so. And Drake is the only rapper really in the top 10. Is that correct? I guess Eminem. Sorry, Eminem as well. But Eminem is kind of to me from the previous era.
Yes.
Even though he popped off at the beginning of this century, his first album was in the 90s. So Drake is really the artist who's from this era in the top 10, which I think is interesting. Where it's like rap as a genre is big, but do we have as many big stars?
Right.
And that's what this list, kind of reminded me of.
Yeah, I think that when you do or look at lists like this where they're doing top artists of the 21st century, like the categorization is amorphous. People are just like top 100. So people like Kanye West is like he becomes like a nuclear weapon. You know what I mean? Like you kind of like, where exactly do you put Kanye West? If you like a musicality, he probably should be at the top of the list. Then you count his personality, his personal beliefs, and you're like, maybe we don't put him on the list. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. He kind of becomes like a nuclear, like he's just radioactive wherever he exists. So even if you're like, he's number 20. And if you're going strictly off music, he is criminally low. Right?
Yes.
But if you're going Kanye West, the person, you're like, maybe we should just like not include him on this list, or maybe, you know what I mean? So he becomes a very, very difficult, and I think that's what's going to happen with his legacy overall. He's just going to become like Bobby Fischer 2.0, basically.
I think there's a chance of that because I feel like, and I said this before on this pod, of like certain artists get a label and certain artists don't. And I feel like for example, I think about Usher. When all the Diddy stuff came out, Usher's name was all over the place. His name was very involved in that. It's well documented. Usher is one who brought Justin Bieber to Diddy. And we've all seen those videos going around where Justin Bieber looks clearly uncomfortable. Now, no one's mentioning that with Usher, and it's not, he's still Usher to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so it's like stuff like that where I said, if this was someone else, maybe we think about it more, like Kanye, and someone else we don't. Someone on this list who I'm surprised they're this high, but I feel like is warranted, is Chris Brown at 18. These are lists where Chris Brown usually, because of what happened with him and Rihanna, he ends up at like 98.
Yeah.
But in all reality, Chris Brown is actually in the spot he's supposed to be in on this list because Chris Brown is an anomaly sense of where, the mainstream kind of does their best to ignore him at all costs, but he is still an enormous star despite all of that.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anyone else who we can really mention who's like selling out arenas, every single year, all still having hit songs, still, relevant in the culture, but the mainstream is ignoring with their whole entire chest. I can't really think. Kanye is kind of becoming that in a sense. But I kind of feel like, Kanye on this list is almost, you can't put him any lower because of his influence. I think Chris Brown, a lot of people are fans of him in music in terms of what he's done, but they're not saying he's an influence in the same way. Kanye is like, I think about the interview a couple months ago where Donald Glover said he's the greatest rapper of all time.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I understand that. I can understand
it's like the influence is still so heavy that it's like, how can you kind of, discount that? So that's interesting to me. One I wanted to mention, which of course, if you know me, you know I'm going to mention this, but I had to scroll way low on this list because it's absolutely criminal. At 85, J. Cole. Insane.
That's not that crazy to me.
I understand he may not have the hit singles of other people, but this is a Billboard list. So I'm going to put my guns down and I understand it. But these are one of those things where I feel like the internet, especially in the present, has changed how we view how big an artist is. Because I'll go back to what I said last month when we had our last sound bites. How many artists can have 100,000 long wait lists for a concert? Like in reality,
he goes again with the dogs and the fire hoses.
in reality, it's like I would guess that maybe 90% of this list cannot do that, and I would guess some people in the top 10 who can't do that. So to me, I'm like, that feels like the measure of an artist, and especially because this wait list is only in a particular city. This is not just like for the tour. This is a wait list in one city. So again, I think it's absolutely criminal that he's so low, but
yeah.
I understand he doesn't have the big hits like some of these other artists.
Yeah, I would say I like talking about a list like this because there's so many funny things. Because we're past the point. Well, I think the two of us are past the point of like really caring about.
Yeah. It doesn't matter to
what
us.
the fuck why does this matter? But from Billboard. But for me, one of the funniest things personally is Post Malone, number 4. Post Malone. Let me list the people Post Malone is ahead of. Okay. Post Malone is ahead of Beyonce.
Start there.
Post Malone is also ahead of Justin Bieber, which is, I would say, kind of underrated on this list. But he's ahead of Beyonce, Usher, Adele.
Yep.
Let's just. I'm just going backwards here. I'm going backwards. He's ahead of Alicia Keys,
Ed Sheeran.
He's ahead of Justin Timberlake. He's ahead of even somebody like Kendrick Lamar. Even ahead of somebody like Kendrick Lamar.
Bad Bunny,
which is actually, that is somebody who is criminally underrated on this list, of course. Nicki Minaj. He's ahead of Nicki Minaj. Who else is he ahead of here? He's ahead of, well, Destiny's Mary J. Blige. He's ahead of Mary J. Blige. I love that. So Post Malone getting the, I would say Post Malone is a chart topper, as he had the Diamond Collection.
Yeah.
But legacy is where he is suffering big time, because he is not a person who people draw influence from, does not have a super influential like project. He has his best albums are his first albums.
Yeah.
And
he's one of those artists.
Yeah, seriously. Like, Stoney and Beer Bongs, those were his first projects.
Yep.
So recency bias is a thing here. White guy bump, also a thing.
Yes.
He also makes country now. He's getting a bump. So he's getting all of the bumps. All the bumps, right? He's getting all the bumps. He has a song with Taylor Swift as well, who's number 1. So he's getting every bump imaginable.
What I do like about this list, though, is because it is very Billboard focused in terms of your actual like chart success. Like Billboard put out an article where they kind of explained the top 10, and if you look at their write-ups, all their write-ups start with their chart success. I'm gonna read Taylor Swift's write-up. After Taylor Swift arrived in the Billboard chart in 2006, she scored 14 Billboard 200 number ones and 12 Hot 100 number ones. That's what they're going off of. How is your chart success? But why I like this is because there's a lot of rappers from yesteryear that are high on this list, and I've always thought that the rappers who were successful in the past kind of get shrifted in the present. Yeah. And I've used the example of someone like Ludacris. He's kind of like my sounding
That's our
board.
guy.
And he's at 39 in the middle, which I think is a fair spot for him.
Ahead of Luke Combs.
Which I think is fair as well. But I say, like, an artist can be popping right now, but how will they ever be bigger than Ludacris? And it's like in the present on social media, you see them often. It feels like a big deal. But somebody I thought of was Lil Uzi. Is Lil Uzi on this list at all? I do not see him. You tell me if you see him. I do not.
I don't see Lil Uzi.
But it's like at Lil Uzi's peak, it felt like Lil Uzi was one of the biggest rappers of the time, and it was a big deal. But it's like for someone like me who was there for both of these primes, what Lil Uzi did in his prime does not compare to what Ludacris did in his prime. And I think this is the list that actually captures that, because you see a bunch of older rappers having higher spots on this list when it's like, yeah, maybe they didn't last to 2015. You're right. Their career was over by 2010. Yeah. That hurts them. But what they did from 2002, 2010 is unmatched. And I think of people like, Nelly at 25, 50 Cent at 31, Ludacris at 39. I think a T.I. at 45, which I think makes sense. So I feel like they got those right. The other person I think is too low on here, or sorry, two people. Nicki Minaj
And Adele.
at 36, and Travis Scott at 51.
That's your guy, though.
No, but Travis Scott is legitimately breaking sales records every time he comes out. He had the best-selling rap album last year, which was a separate album from the one that had the best debut of last year, which is also him, which was an old album.
Right.
That happened the same year with one person, and both albums didn't come out last year. It's insane. And so it's like something like that is like he's been big for a long enough time where he's just here now. We take it for granted. But it's like, when was the last time an artist re-released a mixtape that was the best-selling first week in rap, and their album from the year before was the best-selling album of the year? I can't remember that ever happening.
Okay.
So stuff like that, I'm like, yes, we're used to him being popular, but that is history happening right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I would say, who else do I have who are, I would say, underrated on this list?
You said Adele's too low?
Adele at number 12. Maybe I'm just like...
I think that's fair. She's infrequent.
Yes, yeah, that's probably the thing. Because I'm like, anytime Adele releases music, we like to, everybody else, we're like, oh, this person's on top, this person's on top. It's like, actually, it's just like, we're just waiting until Adele just comes and eclipses literally everybody on the planet, sings like 16 songs, and she's like, okay, now I'm going back to my house.
And I think why this list is actually good, and I do like this list, is because it's a mix of album success and single success. And that's why I think Taylor and Drake at 1 and 2 is actually the only two things they got right. Because Adele, her actual last project, with the album did amazing numbers, but there weren't as many singles that charted.
Right.
And so I think that kind of hurts there. But there's a group in the 20s here, which is a lot of artists from my childhood, and I'm happy to see them in this range. Black Eyed Peas at 23.
Wow.
I'm telling you right now, I know way more Black Eyed Peas songs than you wouldn't think. Like...
Black Eyed Peas, let's state some of the people Black Eyed Peas ahead of, okay? Jay-Z.
That's not wrong.
Lil Wayne.
That's not wrong.
50 Cent. That's in succession. Those are 3 people in succession. Britney Spears.
That's not wrong.
Britney Spears. A little Linkin Park. Shout out Linkin Park getting 37, by the way.
That's big.
That's a nice shot.
I don't know if they should be there, but
I know, but that's a nice shot for them.
I like it. I like
it. That's a nice shot for them.
But the Black Eyed Peas are in the right spot, is my point, because the Black Eyed Peas, the success they had commercially, insane. Like, think about the time when I Got a Feeling and Boom Boom Pow were the #1 songs for like 28 weeks consecutively.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
like both not great records. Thinking back to it now, but
they had a moment
to have 30 weeks of like you have 2 songs that go #1. That's pretty crazy. Nickelback at 26. Like, I don't know if I've heard a new Nickelback song past 2010. And for them to be at 26, that shows you how big they were in the moment, because they were absolutely huge. So they belong there at 26.
Canadian legends, by the way. Canadian legends.
Yeah, Canadian legends. Kelly Clarkson at 27 kind of confused me to have her ahead of Mariah Carey. I know she had some big hits in the early 2000s, but I do feel like she's kind of high. But again, you got that white woman bump that will always get you far. My favorite spot on the list, you mentioned them earlier, and I love that they're high. They're higher than a lot of artists, which they shouldn't be, but I'm happy they're here anyways. Destiny's Child at 41. Like, how many people listen to this podcast don't even know who that is? Like, let's start there. How many people were not born when that happened? Like,
I feel like they're getting the Beyonce. They got the Beyonce bump. It's like, oh, Beyonce was in that group. I mean, they obviously had, big songs, Bills.
A ton of big songs. But I think they should be on the list, but they're too high. Okay. Because you talk about who they're ahead of. Ahead of SZA, ahead of Future, ahead of Juice WRLD, Rascal Flatts at 48. Love them. Ahead of Christina Aguilera, Travis Scott, Lil Baby we mentioned. So
Lil Baby on this list, how?
Well, I think that makes sense. Turn. Yeah, one album. And again, he has probably the most like high charting rap singles of any rapper in this time. Album wise, he doesn't have that, but I think singles. So Destiny's Child, I love that they're on here, but probably too high for me. Where's T-Pain on this list? That is really the question here, because he's at 95. T-Pain at 95 feels insane to me. Is that like, I know his albums didn't do really well.
Yeah, his singles, he's a singles artist. He is actually a true singles artist.
But, and I think too, it's like, shouldn't he have enough singles to be higher than this? I don't know. Like T-Pain behind Norah Jones just doesn't feel right to me.
Tough.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. Like that doesn't feel right to me. Like and so I don't understand. And this is the crazy part about this list because it's like again you could have like your good run, but I think having like big longevity helps. How is Khalid ahead of Sean Paul? Like I don't know what Sean Paul did chart wise, but in the streets.
It was
Sean Paul was double, triple platinum.
Yeah, it was going diamond in the streets.
It's like you have Sean Paul at 88, NSYNC at 90. Maybe they did their dirt before the 2000s. Maybe that's what it is. Ja Rule at 91. Like because I think these are artists who had a string of like the biggest songs in the world.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the difference is like. I love Khalid, but when Khalid had the biggest song in the world, that never happened. You know what I mean? Like NSYNC, Sean Paul, and Ja Rule, probably the biggest song in the world, multiple times, each of them. Like
I agree.
So it's like, how are we measuring this? Like, what am I missing here? Like,
you didn't like American Teen? Oh my god.
No, American Teen is good, but it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Location that you were vibing with that.
So it's like. Again,
oh man,
one person on this list who I don't want to say I'm happy I made the list before you put me with them, but R. Kelly being on this list, I thought he wouldn't be on here at all.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they even included him.
Me too.
But at least it shows they're really taking this seriously.
I love that statement.
No, it's true. It's like we have to include him. Like there's no choice not to include him.
Sorry.
One person who I think is crazy high on this list where I'm like,
oh, crazy high. Okay.
Crazy high. And she's not even that high, but crazy high for me is Selena Gomez at 79. Like, I would think she would not be on the list.
Oh, ouch.
Like, no, did I miss all her hit songs? Because I don't remember.
You didn't like Rare? Rare that's not your vibe, eh?
No, not my vibe.
Okay.
and then this is the last one for me before you talk about something that you didn't like being this high. And this is actually egregious. Because I get it. They had a short run in the 2000s. They ended pretty quickly, but Outkast at 71, absolutely insane.
That seems appropriate to me. I just think that go ahead, sorry.
Well, their last album is maybe one of the best-selling albums out of all of these artists. Mm-hmm. So for me, I feel like, I don't know how they get to at 71. They had some of the biggest singles. Mm-hmm. And maybe, again, it's a volume game.
Yes.
So maybe that is part of it because Kesha at 72, it's like there are people on this list who I thought would not be on this list at all. Like, let's go through those people.
Yeah, there's who's Crazy High to me? I think Crazy High is
it's in the 40s, man. In the 40s is where you get those crazy people.
Give people crazy. Rascal Flatts.
That's what I said. Like, I love Rascal Flatts, but
wow.
That is I don't see that.
Wow. Shout out Olivia Rodrigo at 50 though.
Getting the bump.
I'm happy.
Getting the bump.
She's
no,
I'm not even.
We're gonna leave it.
So yeah,
Akon at 59.
Akon at 59. That's pretty high. So there's some people that are pretty high. I think that Linkin Park at 37. I love Linkin Park.
No, we love Linkin Park. But I'm surprised they're that high.
Exactly.
And you know what I think too, and I think you're right. The volume game helps because I did a deep dive a few months ago when I was going back and listening to all these old pop rock bands from the 2000s. Mm-hmm. I was like, let's go back to this time and see what was really going on. And I was seeing them like, I was young back then. I remember the music, but like I had no gauge of like how they were selling and compared to who. Like I knew like Britney Spears was selling out the gym.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really had no clue. And a couple of the bands that I went and looked back at, they were really doing big numbers below on this list. Creed. I was thinking the exact same thing. Three Doors Down at 76.
Fall Out Boy,
which I've seen live. Great live show, Fall Out Boy. But it's like, I think there's a part of it where we don't know how to compare streams to physical sales. And I think that's kind of the crossover here because I feel like Creed, for example, their 3 albums that it felt like all went diamond. I know they didn't, but it felt like that. Is like, what band has had a 3-album run like that since then? Not many.
Yeah.
Not many.
We're in a dearth of rock bands right now, too.
But even solo artists have had a run like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, to see them that low is kind of odd to me because I'm like, they're below Doja Cat. Like Doja Cat is doing well, but when was Doja Cat as big as Creed? Like that, I don't remember.
Think she's probably bigger than Creed right now.
I don't think so. I don't. Chris, give us a nod. Bigger than Creed, Doja Cat? Like, no way.
No, not bigger than Creed.
No way. No way. It's like, again, I think that's part of it. And then One Direction being at 77, like One Direction in their day, they
were massive. They could not escape it.
And you know what's funny? I think I'm looking at this almost like sports, where it's like peak value is on what I'm valuing more than like the longevity and success, because I think there's a lot of artists on here who like were never even in the conversation for the biggest artists.
Right.
Who are pretty high. To me,
Imagine Dragons at 38.
That makes sense. They're still doing numbers to this day. Like I think they have the theme song of Arcane, which is like had like 400 million on Spotify. Yeah, so
they got the longevity, but it's a low key longevity. I feel.
And they're still doing big numbers. Yeah. But it's like Justin Timberlake. It's like what singer, and to be fair, there's no one ahead of him who I feel bad about, so I think he's in a good spot. But it's like when he was at his peak, it's like there hasn't been a pop star to do that other than Justin Bieber, who's ahead of him. Mm-hmm. Like since then, it's like the pop stars had that like Timberlake feel where it's like you're the guy, you can do whatever you want. Like we haven't had that, so I feel like a lot of the new cats, I think they're giving the new cats a little bit too much.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Yeah, I would say Miley Cyrus at 21 is pretty high. But there was that, she did have that time where she was how do I put this politely? She was with around a lot of black folk.
Okay, she was at the cookout.
Yeah. Yes. She had some sort of forged invitation to the cookout. she was hanging out with a lot of people. But now she is. I mean, there was that song that came out recently. By her.
And she's back up. Like I think the song from last album wasn't one of her biggest records.
I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, she's had
Flowers.
Flowers. Yeah, she's had her moments, but it's just really pretty insane to see her at 21 above so many people that we know. So
and
that's kind of it.
I think the last one, we mentioned him already, but I'm gonna mention him again because he just put out a project which we would review, but we had to eulogize Lil Baby, so that's why we didn't review it, which is Bad Bunny. Love his album. Mm-hmm. He is someone who should be much, much higher on this list. Like everything he does goes number one.
That's true.
He's been the best-selling or most streamed artist in the world 3 times over the past 10 years. So it's like to have that artist be 55 is absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. And then before we get out of here, and I'm gonna let you wrap, I'm gonna give Drake some love because we did this whole thing on talking about Drake. And this is what I mentioned months and months ago when we had our Drake versus Kendrick talk, the many Drake talks we've had, is there's never been a time in hip-hop, realistically, where a rapper has been the biggest artist in the world who's not white. That's the truth. Eminem is the only rapper who's really been the biggest artist in the world and like held that title for real. Kanye had times where he was maybe the most loved artist in the world or respected in terms of his actual music, but sales-wise, people were outselling him. Drake being the biggest artist in the world multiple times for the past decade and being from rap is something that we're just not accustomed to. And I think as well, for him making the kind of rap that he makes, we've basically never seen. You know, Kanye is still kind of almost like left of what hip hop has been, always pushing the envelope. Eminem is his own genre of Eminem kind of music. And when you look at the other like rappers who are on this list who are more quote unquote pop rappers like the Pitbull or the Flow Rider, it's like Drake outsells those guys making, you know, music that's in the center, like Future and 21 Savage. Yeah. So just him being able to do that, I think we've never seen a hip hop before. I don't know if it'll be duplicated. We're about to find out over the next 25 years. We're gonna see if it's possible, but I don't think in hip hop there was a world where we thought someone could make like music everyone listens to, actually in the center, actually black, and be this popular. Because the only example we had was Eminem. And he was
still white.
And he was 100% white.
Yeah.
And not making music that was in the center of hip hop. You know, it was definitely like you're not hearing Eminem in the club.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Renegade?
I would rap every lyric, but I think that would scare the host. But I do want to give him his flowers for that because I have really been thinking about this list in terms of the actual music that's coming from the top 10. I think we're thinking about the fame of the top 10 and, Beyonce fans, I know you guys are upset about where she is, but I think, I literally sent the list to someone, and the first text they sent me back was Beyonce at number 7 is crazy.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but I think thinking about the kind of music that is made from this top 10 is very interesting, because a lot of Black influence on this list. There's only one artist on this list whose music is not Black influence largely, and that's Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And everyone else, it's like Black music all over this list. So
I
like to see that. Shout out to the Blacks.
Shout out Black people. So yeah, that's our comments on the top 100 Billboard's top 100 artists of the 21st century. To us, it's comical. I mean, for us, it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's really funny. Taking a list like this seriously is like kind of taking like a BuzzFeed article seriously back in the day.
I would say it's even worse than that.
So yeah, like it's a list that is made.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention Snoop Dogg's not on this list.
Okay, well,
and he commented on the post.
Oh yeah,
with the trash emoji. I thought that was funny.
I like that. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. The list to us is funny. This is not, somebody who listens to hip hop, aggressively. The list is gonna look different. If you're Black, it's gonna look different. If you're white, it's gonna look different. It's just gonna look different from culture to culture. So
what I do want to see is in the comments, are there people on this list that you don't know? That you've never heard of?
That's a great,
There's no one for me. I don't think there's anyone for you as well.
No.
I'm assuming Lady A is Lady Antebellum. That's what I'm assuming that stands for. But there's no one for me that I haven't heard of on this list. But I want to know in the comments, like, is there anyone on the list who you've never heard of? And where are they ranked? How high are they? I want to know who that is. My guess is like Josh Groban is going to be one of those
I was about to say that. But then I looked it up. I'm like, oh, yeah. I know who Josh Groban is.
But like, who people don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Nora Jones. People don't know.
Yeah,
like
Nora Jones, maybe. Well, maybe. We'll
yeah. I'm not thinking who else people. Jason Aldean, maybe people don't know what he looks like.
Yeah.
They know the name. Toby Keith, probably.
Santana, maybe.
Santana for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long time. So in the comments, I want to know who is the person that y'all have never heard of who's on this list. I'm very, very curious.
What was that thing like Chris Brown where he he lost an award to
the Robert Glasper?
Yeah, he's like, who the fuck is Robert Glasper? That's when we're gonna be like, who the fuck is Santana? Like,
yeah, Chris Brown was goofy for that. I hate that he did that.
So with that, thank you everybody for tuning into Soundbites. We're talking about the music, the culture, the internet. And luckily this time, well, actually we did talk about the legal battles of the music culture that we exist in today. Make sure you follow us on all the platforms on the interwebs. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at AlbumOpod, TikTok at AlbumOpod, Twitter at AlbumOpod. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this video. And give us 5 stars, not a single star less. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Music, anywhere that you listen to your podcast. Adriel, make sure you know yourself and know your worth.
Later days.